This is Cyphus from Defense of the Patients. It's TI5 Hype Week on DotP, and this week is jam-packed with guests who are headed to the International. We're bringing you 6 back-to-back episodes with folks like Nahaz, Greg Laird, Maut, Ranchi, Wood Shrew, Ashney Christ. We're also working on rolling out a ton of great content and coverage of the International, and you can find those announcements by following us on Twitter at .p_show. We're also excited to announce the .p fan meetup, Thursday at 10 p.m. Roland, myself, Wazoo, Easy, and Mr. Blue will all be gathering with the amateur Dota 2 League folks who have been kind enough to host us alongside their get-together at Gamma Ray Games on 501 East Pine Street in Seattle, Washington. That's Thursday at 10 p.m. alongside the 82L crew at Gamma Ray Games on 501 East Pine Street in Seattle, Washington, near the Key Arena. We hope to see you there. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Defense of the Patients, a Dota 2, well, I guess a gaming podcast, but this week we pretty much are a Dota 2 podcast because we are coming to you with the TI Hype Week.
Hype Week?
Are you hyped? I'm hyped!
I'm fucking hyped.
Maut, you hyped?
I'm very excited. Super hyped.
Hype! Hyukin!
I'm your host Cyphus, I'm sitting here with my co-host Roland.
Hello.
Co-host Easy Marchese.
Super hype!
And the one and the only Maut.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
That's great.
How you been, man? It's been a while.
It has. There's been a lot of craziness happening. There's been a lot of Dota, been a lot of other esports and gaming that I've been really into recently. And since we last talked, it's just been a good time.
I saw your tweet go out today about your rank in Counter-Strike. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What's going on with that, man?
I've been all over the CSGO. So I guess I should give some backstory. Before I got into Dota, the first real, I guess you'd call it esport game, the first real online game I played was Counter-Strike 1.5 way back in the day. So I've been playing this game for 15 years. I never really got into CSGO because it wasn't 1.6. And 1.6 was what I really enjoyed. But, all my friends got into it, and I'm like, all right, well, it's time to play Go. Everyone seems to be getting into it. So I've been having a pretty good time.
I wanted to call it Go, but I didn't want to get ostracized for using the acronym in a way that it wasn't meant to be used. So I'm like, Counter-Strike.
You got to go for it, man.
Yeah, no pun intended.
For it.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll make a poster.
So we wanted to have you on because we're getting everybody psyched for the International, and we know that you're going. We heard, so Suns Fan basically is sponsoring your trip to the TI, right?
Yeah, I had other people come up to me and talk to me about it, but Shannon is somebody that is a really good friend of mine, and it only kind of registered, and I don't want to talk about it too much because it's something he did, not as a publicity stunt, obviously. It's something he did because he's my friend,
and
he's someone that we're really good friends, and the fact that he did that for me is pretty outstanding. But so yeah, that's how I'm getting there. It's just through Shannon and
we can get sappy, man. We can get real sappy.
Yeah, I'm not going down that road.
Fair enough.
We're excited to get to see you.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. It's really cool to turn on Pro Dota before I go to bed and hear all these names and see all these people and hear their voices and really know their voices better than I know their faces. And now I'm going to go to the International and finally be able to put, face to name to...
Yeah, that's what I'm most looking forward to.
It's going to be really, really surreal to, have these people that impact you in a huge way, but yet you've never, met them in person. It's weird.
Yeah.
I'm gonna nerd out one time, and everyone's giving me shit for being a fangirl during these hype episodes. But when I got into Dota right after TI3, so I'm like a noob coming into it, and started watching not even the pro games, but the amateur games and stuff. Your voice is one of the most recognizable ones, and one of the ones that I most enjoyed listening to. And I'm this was before I was even picking up tickets, so you were grinding, casting games, and in a way that really pulls people into the game. So to say that the caster's job is an easy one, or that they're putting out their job is to cast and call the commentary, is to not recognize the fact that as a person that's coming into the game and is trying to get information on it, you are hyping me up. Like, you're getting me excited about Dota. You getting all fucking jazzed and blowing your shit when shit's going crazy, like, makes me feel like, whoa, that's exciting. Like, I wouldn't have gotten that excited on my own. I would have been like super confused. But now I'm like super pumped and I want to know why.
Yeah, it's
so thank you
for that. Yeah, well, thanks for the kind words. I think the most important thing for me is just to, when I first started, was just to try to bring my enjoyment of the game over to other people. And as long as I can do that in even a small semblance, I'm pretty happy with what I've done so far. So thanks.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
So, Maut, I've been asking people this week, because we have a lot of aspiring people within our guild that want to break in, that want to do this type of thing. And I asked Greg and I asked a few others, what do you think? Like, what would be the advice you could give to somebody who's downloaded Dota today but said, I want to create content for this game? How do I do it?
It's funny you asked that question. I don't know if you guys know this, but a couple days ago, I actually created a video about how to not specifically break into content creation, but to break into casting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That is awesome. Can we link to it in the show notes?
Oh my god!
Let me see if I can find it real quick. It's like I called it a quick guide to getting into casting, and then I realized it was a 40-minute video. And I'm like, calling this quick is the dumbest thing I've ever done.
Sure, but can you put it just real simply for somebody that, like, I want to do this. Like, I'm super interested in this. I have a computer. I have a mic. I have a headset. Like, let's do this.
I think the best advice that anyone that's already doing it will give you is just to try and go for it. First of all, decide what you want to do in terms of content creation. Do you want to become a caster? Do you want to become somebody that makes videos? Do you want to be something else entirely? Decide on what you want to do, and then just do it. Get what you need to do it through, your computer, perhaps, or just other sort of assorted utensils, and then just start creating stuff. And then put it out there. And at the beginning, when you first put it out there, unless you get really lucky or you have some real natural talent, you're going to be bad at it. That's just how it works. That's how it is for everyone, whether it's casting, whether it's content creation. When you put something out there, you're kind of laying it out on the line. You're saying, okay, I hope this is good, but you don't want to just get too discouraged. Just keep doing it, and eventually someone will notice, and someone will say, oh, that's pretty awesome. Let's get this guy, or let's check this out, and eventually grow a fan base, hopefully. So it really comes down to just actually doing the stuff that you want to do.
Okay, what's your story? Let's hear it from the beginning page of how you got into this.
Into esports
and
casting,
into being well known. Into, Maut, yeah, I know Maut. Like, how did that happen?
When I first started, I was actually playing World of Warcraft, for a long period of time, and I'd gotten a new computer. XSplit was like a new thing. I'm like, wow, this is a cool thing that you could do. You could stream video games online, because there was always someone that was really interested in watching video games. So I started playing WoW, was in a guild, did some raids, streamed that. Eventually, Dota 2 beta came out. I played Dota 1 a bit, LAN parties, et cetera, and I thought, I saw a couple people casting. I'm like, I feel like I could do this if I actually gave it a shot. So I picked up a microphone, which
when is this?
Really bad. This was TI2 qualifiers, like 3-ish years ago, however long.
3 years ago. Okay.
And so I picked up my microphone, and I'm like, all right, let's actually just give this a shot. And
how'd you do?
I guess at the beginning I was pretty ass, but that's to be expected. And then I posted one of my amateur games that I casted from the Reddit Dota 2 Team League onto Reddit, and they were like, "Hey, this is pretty good. You've got some raw talent there, or some shit like that." And so eventually, I did get contacted by a couple of other organizations and people. I started working for bigger and bigger, either semi-professional or amateur tournaments in America, and then eventually I broke through in the American scene. Started doing more and more professional games, and then
where'd you break through? What was your big breakthrough? What was the big one?
I think casting with BTS was probably the biggest thing my biggest breakthrough. Just doing an assortment of games, and
that's
probably
huge.
Doing the TI3 qualifiers last year was pretty big, and then before that doing I can't even remember the leagues that I was doing with BTS, but it was just an assortment of professional, because they have so many tournaments that they cast over there, and I was just doing an assortment of professional tournaments, casting with pros, and then eventually Dota Pit came around, and obviously I'm here, and that's where I am today. But I think for a lot of people, especially Beyond the Summit or Join Dota, are the two biggest ones that are going to propel them to stardom. And I think for BTS, it kickstarted a lot of people's careers. So I think I definitely owe my career to, at least in part, to them a little bit.
Yeah, no, that place has done awesome
wonders
things
for the community.
I remember this is back when, Beyond the Summit had started by this point, but like the first Beyond the Summit, I remember seeing that and like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. And they had like a really cool, catchy video, and it was like made you want to watch and see more about this American tournament that was happening. And the prize pool was pretty big. Like, it was like, that's fucking cool. Like, that's pretty big. And now to see where they are now, like, and all the awesome people that they employ. I mean, just helping everybody out in the scene too. Like, yeah, you know what? We need people to do an assortment of things, and those people are going to be people that we know and we love. I mean, Toffees is down there helping. You're down there helping. I mean, it's just really cool, the people they're able to bring in.
I mean, and especially with this last summit, when they brought in all those people, like you mentioned, Toffees and stuff like that, they're trying just to, I think, appreciate the people in the scene a bit more and get those people to get them some more exposure, because that's how we're going to grow the scene, is through more community figures and more tournaments and even more teams to a certain extent. But obviously that depends on, how many people actually play the game of Dota, and we have a very large player base now too. So yeah, definitely BTS. Even before BTS, though, there have been other people. Obviously, one of the people that I worked with, and he's a really good friend of mine for a long time. You might know a website called NA Dota. He's the founder of NA Dota. His name is Spitwad, and he's somebody that also worked with Neo Dota, which is a company that I used to work for in casting. And so I did a lot of American tournaments with Neo Dota and with Spitwad. So Spitwad and Greg, or What Is Hip, have helped me a lot on the way as well. So pretty much everyone in the scene at one point or another has either given me advice, gave me tournaments to cast, or just helped me out in general. So I can't really specifically speak as to one person, but BTS definitely, I think, gave me the biggest exposure.
Well, I mean, look at this scene and how fucking awesome this scene is. Like, I mean, we're fucking newcomers to this scene. You guys have been here forever, and like, it was like we send one email and it's like, yeah, of course I'm willing to come onto your podcast. Like, yeah, I'd absolutely love to. Like, that has been the overwhelming response from everybody we've ever contacted, where they're just like, yeah, you're creating content. I appreciate the contribution. So am I.
If somebody's available,
I'd love to come on.
And definitely the representatives from the Beyond the Summit like crew and kind of, or the folks even just surrounding it. If they're available, if they're not too busy at the moment, they're always
yeah. Well, even if they're too busy at the moment, they're like, I'm super busy at the moment. What times were you thinking? And I was like, I don't know. We can accommodate pretty much anything you're thinking. And they're just like,
yeah, like we fucking would love to talk to you. How about you tell me any time of day, and
just
I will
let me know.
Yeah, they're overly accommodating for even just the fleggling things within the community, and I think that alone speaks to how invested they are in.
Well, I think a lot of it too is that you actually have a really good show going on, and that's always, I think, been known. So the fact that you guys are doing really well is also an added bonus, and that's why people want to do the show.
I will say, as a fan of DotP, as a person who's very recently been able to have a voice, in this context, but has forever been around as a fan of what Roland and Cyphus have been doing. You guys and everybody else in the community, connecting with them and having conversations with them is an outlet for if new players are coming into this scene, and one of the ways that they're being introduced to the game of Dota is through DotP. Being able to also be introduced to some of the people that, it's cool to see you and hear you, and then get to be a part of DotP and hear you do an interview with DotP,
and then play a game with DotP.easy or DotP.Roland, and it's like, wait, you interviewed Maut, and it was like, yeah, let's play an in-house.
Yeah.
And
or
like,
just
we really get
and shit. Like,
people love that.
These people are like, whoa, dude, like, or Sir Action Slacks, all those people that have been super nice to come on to DotP. It is the next, like, I almost feel like DotP is like a channel into the scene, like from the ground level, coming up here, and everybody that's come down and been a part of it from kind of like the upper echelons has made a connection with DotP that makes those people in the community feel comfortable moving up into the next level of the game if they would like to. And that's because the community's been so welcoming, and honestly is so counter to what you think of when you think of the toxic Dota community. Like, it is not that way, and I'm glad it has a voice to kind of represent itself as something positive.
I also feel like you guys are really accessible too. Like you're easy to find, and you don't talk about too many in-depth topics. Yeah, you
No,
really
we
just
don't.
like talking about Dota. I think that's a pretty big and important thing about the show as well. At least from when I've been on here. So
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about us figuring it out. Like we were, that was kind of where it was. Like
Pretending to analyze.
And speaking of figuring it out, I want to, while we have Maut on the show, I want to get your kind of like expert opinion on a couple of Dota news articles that came up.
yeah, sure.
So the first one was that Valve just announced that they launched the Dota TV beta. So that's up and available now. I think you can look at some of the most popular games from the qualifiers. They're now available to go stream on the Dota TV. What do you know about Dota TV? What should we expect? What do you think is going to happen with that?
On like the new browser thing that they have.
Yeah.
I've only seen a little bit of it. It's definitely really, really cool, and it provides a way where you can have a really good gaming experience, a good Dota experience, watching Dota without having to necessarily be in the game. Like it's actually really nifty. I don't know like how it works in terms of like how you use it when you're streaming or when you're casting. I think it's anything they do. Anything they add to this game is generally going to be a benefit. So I'm 100% for it. I just have to look at it more in depth because I don't really know exactly how it works yet. So
I'm sure it's going to be a great thing for casters where it's like, we have a shitload of content. You cast games. Will you cast these games for us? And it's just like, all of a sudden, you're the one being hit up for your talent instead of, grinding through and trying so hard for people to notice that, like, hey, I'm serious about this. Hey, I'm good at this too. Notice me.
So you think they're gonna pull in like talent specifically to
absolutely.
like things that are aired on quote unquote Dota TV, and it's not gonna work through like the same like ticketing function and shit?
I would imagine that they try and expose the community a little more because there has been a lot of talk about like expose the community, let people shine through. I mean, people, the videos that were submitted for one little thing.
So to counter that, here's I want to bring up the next article because I think those two go kind of hand in hand, and I think there might be a counter explanation to this.
Okay.
The other thing that Valve announced today was that they're going to have a heavier hand in team roster changes after this TI. If you want to go to the Dota Championship, you've got to have a stable team roster through September 1st. And that December 4th was a big day to watch out for, but we don't know why. Is Valve not positioning itself, rather, to take more control of the scene and have
That's got to be a good thing, right? That's got to be a good thing. Like that.
I mean, some of the teams will definitely think that's a negative thing, especially like North American teams. I'm sure they'll put up a fit, but
casters now know.
And they're limiting stand-ins. You have to have two stand-ins
you can
on
only
your
have
roster.
Two stand-ins. But like, think about Maut, all the research he has to do before a game because of some shitty roster change.
No, I'm
if
not.
They can't do that anymore, it's going to be better for casters.
The reason I bring it up is because you're kind of talking about exposing. Is Valve positioning itself to expose more of the community? I think the counter argument there is that perhaps Valve is positioning itself to be a little bit more like the more profitable models like Riot. I mean, Riot kind of controls their own broadcasting center. If maybe the place to go watch Dota is Dota TV.
Not if Beyond the Summit's still doing such a great fucking job. Why would I watch anything else? How do you get better than Beyond the Summit?
No, I understand.
You know
I'm just saying,
like,
are they not positioning themselves to... Cause, I mean, it's going to be hard for anybody to compete with Valve proper. Mm-hmm. Is my only argument.
Sure. I mean, they own the game and everything. But I don't think we're having some, like, I don't know, like, utilitarian takeover. I'm just saying,
those are two really kind of bold things on Valve's
I think they're trying to make it seem serious. So, because we're getting aired on ESPN, Dota players, people playing Dota, people playing video games is on like the New York Times. You know what I mean? Like they want to make this look as serious and professional as possible.
Maut, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody that is working in esports thinks that what Valve is doing is a bad thing at all. Like even people with BTS, everybody is thinking, okay, maybe Valve takes a bigger chunk out of the pie, or maybe they take more of the tournaments, and maybe we have to be a bit more careful with how we run things. But having Valve have this kind of a heavy hand is what I think we all wanted since the beginning. I can't really... There's been so many conversations I've had with people in the esports where it's just like, man, if Valve gave if they gave even a little bit of a shit, like as much as Riot does, like even like half of that, like if they gave that much interest into the game, because all it seems like is like they pump out one tournament a year, and this is before obviously the majors were announced. This is like something we were like really griping about. Yeah. They only pump out one tournament a year. That tournament has massive prize pool. The implications are huge, and it makes it seem like every other tournament on the face of the planet is just not great. And so what does that mean? That means that teams are often going to reform right after the International and right before the International just so that they're ready to go when TI comes around, which means that certain tournaments and organizations have to be flustered because all these players are on a different team. And it definitely affects the North American scene, I think the biggest. The North American scene gets hit up, and it's just like, okay.
We kind of require stability.
Yeah, we have so many people that we don't like playing with, toxic players, because the North American players have such a large ego. And for NA Dota, like, the biggest thing has been roster stability. And we're finally seeing our first like big implications where we might actually see a TI without a North American shuffle. Like after TI2, after TI3, there is always a North American Dota reshuffle every single second. And so the fact that Valve is already getting involved in saying you can't do that is a pretty big, apparent sign that, hey, we actually might have to, have a full team and have people we like playing with. And it's already, you could see like at BTS Americas, we've had like, when I see the TI5 qualifiers and then I see a team that doesn't do well, I expect them to immediately either quit or, reshuffle. And that's not been the case. BTS Americas came around and like all of the teams that were playing in that tournament kept their rosters, or at least the majority of their rosters from the TI5 qualifiers. So long story short, I think Valve being involved in the scene is definitely a good thing. There are some definitely, I guess, minor but annoying implications that they might be harming in terms of, how many tournaments are running and things of that nature. But I still think it's definitely a good thing.
I think primarily it does two things. It raises the standards in the scene, and for a house like BTS that's already kind of made that their MO, I don't think that they'll have problem adjusting to that new scene. Some of the smaller, kind of more thrown together, hastily ran tournaments might not exist under this new umbrella, but it also lowers the bar to entry. So for someone who's looking to get into Dota 2, having that stability kind of provides a foundation for you as a new player and someone that's trying to look in, the window to see what it looks like inside of this scene can get a clear picture, and that's really helpful.
Yeah, I'm not like claiming the sky is falling or anything. I was just pointing out a couple of,
it's going to be such a huge change, right? I mean,
yeah, it's going to. I mean, well, we've even talked on this show before about how it has always kind of felt like Valve needed to step in and take a heavier hand with the community.
I mean, we were suggesting it way before, where it's like Valve I wish they would just take utter control of this.
Well, because from a newbie standpoint,
from a newbie standpoint, I don't know all these players and all these names and all these teams and all these it was just so hard to break into Pro Dota. It took probably 6 months for me to even give a shit, to be honest with you. From somebody who never played Dota before, just getting into Dota, to be having to be rooting for a team at TI5. I'm definitely rooting for a team. Team Secret. I am a Team Secret fanboy.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's not original. I'm not I'm not like MVP Phoenix is gonna take it or anything like that.
He texted me a picture. He's like, I've been working on my Zai sketches. How does this look? I'm
you're like a guy.
That hair is pretty good.
You're like a guy who roots for the Yankees, is what it feels like.
Well, hey,
which I mean is okay. I'm not faulting any Yankees fans out there.
You must be one of those people on Reddit that hates us so much, me and Trout, because everyone thinks we're like EG fanboys or something like that, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, you're so fucking biased." I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
EG's really good. Oh, EG is better than they've ever been.
I'm going underdog status, Team Archon all the way, baby.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, if there's a team that I do like, it's Archon because they're all my friends. But I think people need to get off this subject of Cash just being biased in certain ways. I think that's really, really.
I've never felt that way.
You know what? My counter argument to that is, who really cares? Because
apparently Reddit does. But.
Yeah, because
they care about everything. Don't worry.
When you look at subjectivity, is that what the argument is?
Well, or you mean objectivity?
Objectivity, yeah.
Well, who cares? Because when you're watching a game, when you're watching or listening to baseball, like on the radio, for instance, there are always local broadcasters, and they always care. I used to listen to Baltimore Orioles games, right? They always, and the guy was an O's fan through and through, and that was it. He was always talking about the Orioles, what they could have done to win that game, why they lost that game. It was all about them. And you know what? If you were an Orioles fan in the area, you loved those broadcasts. Those were what you were genuinely interested in. And so maybe if you're a Maut fan and you think Maut has an EG bias, then maybe watch a Maut maybe watch Mautcast EG instead of some other guy.
Yeah. Hey.
Well,
Yeah.
that would be my argument if you felt like somebody had a bias. I don't know.
All right. So I mean, here's the thing about bias in Dota and what you're talking about, which I definitely agree with you that when you're watching American sports, specifically sports that pretty much everything except for football, when you're watching American sports, they always have a local broadcast that has a broadcaster who is definitely a homer. And some of those broadcasters are more of a homer than certain other broadcasters, but that's fine because that's what you expect when you tune into the broadcast.
Right.
For me, I grew up being a Buffalo sports fan, which means the Sabres and the Bills. I know my life is miserable, but that's fine. If anybody knows anything about Buffalo sports, I mean, we are tortured souls, but for Buffalo, and especially the Sabres, there was a guy that really got me into commentary. His name was Rick Janneret, and he was a Buffalo Sabres commentator, and he's definitely a homer, much like every other commentator is. The unfortunate thing is that you can't have that when you're casting Dota because it's a worldwide, international, only one broadcast because of the exclusion rights, or exclusivity rights, rather, and you can't have that kind of bias. The thing is that commentators, I think 90% of commentators tiptoe around and try to make it so that even if they have personal feelings about a team like I do with Archon, they try to keep the cast as even as possible. But people are so into reading into, what we're talking about, that they often think what they project what they want to think about a caster onto the caster regardless of what we're saying, which is really frustrating because if a game is going a certain way, I'm going to talk about one team over the other because that's how I tell a story. If Secret are dominating against like Virtus Pro, I'm obviously going to talk about how well Secret is doing. Sure, I'll cover how Virtus Pro are getting thrashed and what maybe they could do to get back into the game, but it's just pretty much how I tell the story of a video game.
Yeah,
and it's really
interesting.
To deal with that.
And it's interesting to hear.
Well, it's what happens. The story emerges.
That's why we listen to people while we watch this game, is because we want you to tell us what we're excited about and what they should do to improve. Like,
and it definitely makes Dota more accessible. A game that otherwise has no narrative, having a narrative, that I don't know, that makes it so much more accessible as a newer individual, somebody who hasn't watched a lot of Dota.
So is the Reddit community's argument is that that line should be drawn, and that the caster or the commentator should not have those type of relationships with players that would lead to that happening, or what? I mean, what do you do to even, like, how do you avoid a situation like that where, I mean, you're getting hyped for the game and you're going to meet people in the scene that are the players and everything else, and especially with things like, the way that the house works and everything, like the way that everybody interacts with each other to create the content that's created. How are you going to avoid forming relationships with these people?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna form relationships with everybody in Dota if you're in casting, if you're in commentating. I think Reddit just wants it to be, I don't know. They want certain things out of their cast, and everyone wants like everything, and you can't really conform to all of those people. And like certain people on Reddit really love our casting, other people are like, you're so biased, other people just don't like us at all, and you cannot conform to whatever Reddit wants because there's just too many people. And you just have to hope that you're doing the best that you possibly can. And I think the biggest thing is taking feedback from people you trust, number one, and maybe, the occasional person that tweets at you with a good bit of criticism, and try to ignore as much toxicity as you possibly can. But as far as like forming relationships, I mean, like it should hopefully, like, your relationships should not affect your casting. You have to kind of disconnect the player that you meet and the character that they're playing in the game. And I think that's actually pretty easy. Like, them playing for a certain
they actually are a different character when you're doing it too. So.
Right. Okay, he's not actually Huskar. Like, he's playing like Huskar this game.
The fucking mid lane. Oh no, that's Ush. You're gonna get smashed, buddy.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's like, because it's a video game and it's like not life threatening, you could keep it like pretty separate. You care enough about these people. Sure, you want them to win, but you could commentate in a way that you won't have any real bias whatsoever. It's pretty simple to not have bias, and anyone that thinks that professional casters have bias, I think are just wrong.
And at that point, it's not like anything you aren't that you're saying about their play at the professional level, they're probably not going to go back and watch and think themselves.
Well, I kind of like to look at it like this. Like, see, if I have two friends playing chess and I'm watching them play chess, I'm not rooting for one friend over the other. I'm rooting for the player who plays the best.
Yes.
And that is exactly what casters are supposed to do. Like, you're supposed to root for the team that's winning, like everyone that wants you to. You know what I mean? Like,
and when those comebacks come and you start raving about the other team, you're all the more excited because they had no chance up to that point.
Yeah. That's my God, he's almost checkmated.
Good analogy. Gold star upvoted.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think that's definitely true. And I've tweeted about this before. I've said this before. When people ask me if I'm a fan of certain teams, I say I'm just a fan of really good Dota. Like, that's all I really care about when it comes to, at least like from a Dota standpoint.
Because really, what you do is moment to moment. Like that's your job. Like you're not this overarching thing. You were moment to moment to moment to moment till it stops. You know what I mean?
If someone's gonna pick Nagasiren and like Techies, which I mean, I guess is kind of what happened in BTS Americas last night. Don't get me wrong, I love Summer's Rift. I love that team. I also love Root Gaming. But they picked Nagasiren, and they would have lost that game, 40 minutes earlier if that hero wasn't in the game. And because that's the case, you find yourself saying, okay, Root, all they need to do is push in here. But if Summer's Rift are able to take a couple of team fights and get back into the game, then I'm all the more excited as long as they have some good team fights. But really what it came down to was that Root Gaming had, they had a vacuum wall into like an Ice Path Macro Pyre into Sven Cleave. And that, from a spectator standpoint, is a much cooler way of playing the game.
You know what you should do is you should cast the game with absolutely no bias and see how many people want to watch it.
I would have to be a robot.
It would be like, yep, and this player picked up this item, and this player picked up this item.
That sound like when we cast.
Let's go ahead and give the kill.
Me too.
Because we have nothing to say, let's go ahead and comment on the kill score that you can already see. Wow. 14-14. Yeah. That is crazy. Like, it would be boring. Like, I want you to hype me up. That's why I'm listening to you. Or else I just pull it up on and turn you off. You know what I mean? Like, that's why there's such a thing as casters. Like, you gotta.
It's also another thing is also like upsets and and kind of just again storylines.
Yeah.
So it's not only like a storyline that's happening in the game as we speak, but it's also like a storyline like before the game. Like, okay, well, Secret's been dominating throughout this entire season, but the X team has not beaten them, so maybe there's an upset potential here. Or Secret is looking to win their X championship in a row, and they're against a pretty tough opponent. So there's often storylines that you have to talk about before you get into the game. And keep that in mind as well. So it's just so hard though. Like
that's why I'm going Archon. I want to be like the guy that was like rooting for that storyline from day one.
Like,
dude.
What Archon won it?
Nobody saw it coming. I'll be like, I fucking saw it coming. Go listen.
So Maut, Zyori brought up a good point, and I want to see how you answer this. In that, what is your MMR? Real quick, let's do a state of affairs for you. What's your MMR?
4K.
You're 4K, and that's what I thought. You are casting people who are 7K and saying what they're doing is correct or incorrect. Do you sometimes feel like maybe you're making the wrong call as a caster? That maybe what they were doing was right, but they're just like 3,000 MMR above you? Or do you feel like you're able to analyze it because you're kind of in like sitting out of the game? You don't have the stress of the game. You're just able to watch exactly what happens and call it.
It's way different, I think, analyzing a game. For me, I do feel like a lot of the time there's definitely chances where I'm saying a couple of wrong things, but I've gotten a lot better about it because.
And I'm not talking you in specific at all. I'm talking just casting.
No, I know,
casters.
No, casters that do what we do specifically, which is why we have, when I'm a play-by-play caster, this is why we have professional or semi-professional co-casters, so that when they talk about something, they're more confident about it. They've had that experience. They've played at that level, which is why I love having Trouf with me, because he's somebody that is, first of all, very well spoken, and secondly, even if he makes a mistake, no one's going to call him on it because he's like one of maybe a couple hundred people that has played at that level in Heroes of Newerth and Dota. Obviously, I'm not there. I'm not at that level, which is why I stayed at that play-by-play kind of situation. And if I say something wrong, Trouf's going to call me on my shit. He's going to be like, "That you're an idiot."
He's a nice fact checker. Yeah, nice instant fact checker.
Which is nice to have. I'd rather hear it from the person sitting next to me than fucking, like
than a community in uproar. Yeah, if you just clarify.
I don't want to go on Reddit and be like, "Oh, your Maut's wrong about XYZ again because he's a fucking dumbass." I don't want to have that. That's not something I'm interested in.
It seems like a problem with you famous people in Reddit. Like, I wish I was getting flamed on Reddit all the time. Like,
hey,
I
Reddit,
actually just
talk about man. Come on.
I used to go on to Reddit every day, and I was just like, oh, I wonder if Reddit's saying anything about the tournament or the game that was just casted. And now I just don't go on the website anymore. It's just the bad. There's
a sign of making it. A sign of making it. You don't want to go on Twitter or Reddit.
Hey, I think that's how a lot of personalities feel. And the problem is, and I've talked to LD about this a lot, is just like we'll talk about Reddit and we'll talk about it in like. There's certain parts that we like about it, but then we'll talk about it really negatively, and then we'll be back on Reddit like the next day, or talking about what's on Reddit the next day, and it's just like, God damn it, we're addicted. But anyways, back to your point about being wrong, which as a co-caster definitely happens to me, I think, a lot. I've gotten a lot better because I've really studied the game. I've done a lot of FPL. I've tried to get in TeamSpeak with pro players.
What is FPL?
The most important thing
real quick, what is FPL?
FPL is Face It Pro League, and it was a pretty I should just call it in-house leagues, and I'm sure you guys know what that
yes.
those are.
Yes.
The top players play in-house leagues so that they don't have to play matchmaking against like 4K opponents or 5K opponents, or with 4K people or 5K people. So they play FPL so they can play with people that are on their own skill level. Obviously, that's a lot of fun because there's a lot of toxicity, especially in NA Dota, and it's pretty fun to watch. But
I bet it would be a blast to watch.
Yeah, it's actually.
You could sell tickets to that shit, like underground Dota. You know what I mean?
We have. It used to be a big thing. It was NEL first, then it turned into FPL, and FPL went on strong for like a couple months, and it died down because people were screaming for TI. So you watch these in-house leagues, you see what the common picks are, you see what everyone goes for. But the best thing that you possibly could do to get to that level is, number one, play in those in-house leagues. Number two, play on a professional team. Number three, be in a room with the pro players. Like when I was at the Summit, when I was taking a break from observing and casting, I was at a room with EG back at the Summit 2, and I think even at the Summit 3 I was there while they were in a game, and I was doing the adminning. So I was in the room while they're playing a game, and they're discussing their strategies. They're discussing the draft. They're talking. They're making plays. They're saying, can X person come here? Can Y person come here? And that gives you a huge insight into the game and how that one team plays.
My fuck!
And that, of course,
I'd pay $1,000 to do that. I would pay $1,000 to just sit in the same room.
All those three things you just listened to.
Yeah.
Do you think anybody could do?
Do you think you would raise your MMR if you did that?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. If PPD was like, all right, here's what's going to go. Okay, listen, they're gonna pick this. It's obvious. We ban that out. Okay, right? Like that would be fucking amazing, dude. And Fear's like, no, dude, I've been playing this a long time. That's not happening.
Well, that's actually kind of funny that you mentioned that. That's kind of how it goes. I mean, and I don't want to discuss their drafting strategies too much or how they talk, but sure. I think for EG, Fear has such a large knowledge base of the game that he'll PPD will throw out ideas. Fear will counter with a counter idea. Universe is like sitting over, on one of the computers. It's like, yeah, I'll play that hero. And Universe is super casual about it. And then like it's different for like every team. Obviously, like certain teams are like really one person talks and everyone else listens, and then other teams like EG, I think like Secret as well, are kind of like, okay, here's what we're thinking, and then other people counter with ideas. And
I saw an interview with PPD where he was like, I have the final say, but I definitely listen to what my team has to say.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's I think that's what a lot of captains do too. A lot of really good captains. Puppy obviously does that as well. Like Puppy is very
Okay, can you explain something for me? The whole Puppy S4, who's captain, who's not captain of Team Secret?
As far as I understand it,
I'm so confused. I saw S4 as captain once, and I was like, what?
I think S4 is. I don't want to. I'm not 100%.
See, even you are confused. We're all confused.
Well,
dude.
because I haven't seen them like live recently. I think S4 is the drafter. I can't remember 100% on that. And then I think Puppy is the captain. Puppy makes the calls. But I think I think it's a little bit of everything. I think everybody makes the calls. I think everybody does a little bit of everything.
I'm sure Zai's like,
that's how it works in pro teams, anyways.
So. Gonna land a sick hook. Watch. Like that's what Zai says.
That's what you imagine.
Gonna land a sick hook. Watch.
Not when there's 15 million on the line. If you were ever on a team with somebody and 15 million was you're playing a $15 million tournament, and I heard you go, I'm gonna land a sick hook, bro.
I'm gonna say, watch.
I just stand up and slap you in your face.
I bet Zai's talking like that the whole time, and Arteezy's just like, yeah, baby, one more, yeah, one more notch on that blade, yeah, baby, yeah, getting them. Like that's how, you know what I mean?
He spelled immediately.
That's how I imagine it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Arteezy's kind of like that, like fiend for kills. I just think of Shadow Fiend when I think of Arteezy, and like, yeah, that's pretty good.
Arteezy's not a fiend for kills. Arteezy's a fiend for farm. Arteezy's make me as much space as you possibly humanly can and let me do my thing, and that's pretty much what happens. But going back to the original point, which I'm
sorry.
What were we even talking about?
Just how the various teams talk.
Yeah, how being in the same room as EG.
We were making that before. We were making a point before that, but anyways, going back to
something about the private leagues where they play.
Oh,
so
yeah,
they get the same.
That was leading
skill.
somewhere, man. You took us on a journey, and then you
sorry.
fucking dropped us off
There I
the side
go,
of the
like,
road
yeah,
and left.
I don't even know what happened. Anyways,
That's on you, Maut. You drove us all the way out here.
yeah, I guess I did. I have no idea where we were.
So I feel abandoned.
So let's get into a little bit about. I know it's touchy, and we already got into it at the start, but were you still hopeful when you saw like the final invite go out? Were you still like, maybe I'm getting there?
Yeah, I think everybody was. Everybody that wasn't invited.
Who else was
still? And well, Dakota didn't get invited until the last second, and
Yeah.
I'm almost positive that it was because of the backlash that and this is the really annoying thing is the backlash that the community of people that like the vocal majority or vocal minority of Dota 2 gave through other channels,
Sure.
through Reddit, through NA Dota, through those channels. That like the backlash that they created was enough for Dakota to get invited. Not that I'm jealous. Dakota definitely deserved it 100%. He definitely should be there, and I'm it's great that he's going. But it's really unfortunate to see that happen to like one of your best friends, and then like for you kind of just to sit back and say, I guess I'm just not good enough at this point. And
no, that's not okay. No, I didn't bring that up for you to be like feeling incompetent or anything. Like, I'm just, we're just wondering what it's like. Like, that must have been a fucking roller coaster.
I mean, for Zyori, he mentioned it being just like a weird experience where you want to be happy, you want to feel all these different things, but there's so many, because of the way that they do the announcement, so many different emotions come slamming into you at the same time that it's really hard to process.
It sucks. I'm gonna be honest with you, it sucks. But the thing is, I was able to get clarification earlier on in the day, which kind of made it a bit worse, but also a bit better. And I asked Bruno, I was like, "So what's the dealio?" And he's pretty much just like, "Yep, sorry." I don't want to go too much into.
No, I don't want detail. I don't want detail. I was just wondering.
Let's change the subject to something upbeat about TI.
Well, I don't think it's I think it's cool. What happened?
What are you excited for? This is our first TI. We have never been before. For Roland and I, we really started getting into it, into Dota in general, shortly before the 2014 TI. So, I mean, we are still noobs.
That's when we started the podcast, was right after TI4, and we were riding on like the tidal wave of what was TI. So it was pretty crazy. Like, what are we in for there, Maut?
When it used to be at Benaroya, all I could call it would be a giant party. So Benaroya was the smaller opera hall that they had in like downtown Seattle, and a lot of people will say this that have been to TI2, TI3, is that those two TIs were way more intimate than what we saw at Key Arena. And not that's necessarily a bad thing. So when we were at Benaroya, there were people getting hammered. A lot of NA Dota crew were just They were posting up on the stairs. All the pro players would come out. They would get mobbed by a handful of people, but there weren't as many people there, so it would feel like you could go up and you could find any pro player and sit there and talk with them. At Key Arena, it's way more. You're getting mobbed. It's like a 16,000 person arena. Obviously, it's not capacity because they can't fit everybody in there with how the seating's arranged. But essentially, it's way more exclusive, I think, at Key Arena. It's like, okay, if you're in the know, then you get to be like you get to
meet
go and hang
people.
out. You get to meet people. You can hang out in some of the booths. You can kind of just go and chill.
But for us general attendees, we see like a.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you'll get to meet people, but you run a show. You've talked with people. You'll definitely get to see people. But for people that are just casual,
we're gonna snag anybody we find.
What if Zy walks past me? Can I be like, dude, I love you. I think about you.
Can. The thing is that they'll be
you
signing
and everybody else.
So here's the thing: is that very rarely the pro players will come out of the balcony level to come and mingle and sign autographs and talk with the audience. And that's something that a lot of players will do, but they will only do it for a little bit of time. And they're going to get mobbed by all these people. And this is also true of a lot of the cast, or a lot of the casters, a lot of the personalities, is that they'll come out of where they're staying, where they're chilling, and people will come up and they'll mob them. There are other places for people to find pro players and personalities, such as at the hotel or maybe at the after party if there's one. I'm not sure if there is or not. I have no idea.
Gamma Ray Games Thursday at 6.
Yeah, Gamma Ray Games
10.
Thursday at
10 p.m.
So when the day ends Thursday, you should come on over. It'll be a good time.
Is that like
that's
the official after
yeah,
party?
that's our meetup. Well, that's our meetup.
We're hanging out with the 82L crew.
82L crew,
taking it legit.
You know, might have a Slaxy stopping in and out. Might have a Zyori coming in and out. You know,
that's the thing, is that the people that you know, that's really what it's all about, is just getting to meet people that you maybe have never met in real life.
Greg's coming.
Putting a face to a name and just like hanging out with them IRL, whether that's through you're drinking, whether you're just kind of chilling and hanging out. You know, that's really what TI4 and TI3 were for me. Is just like kind of just chilling with people that either I knew from previous events or people that I was just meeting for the first time. So that's really what TI is for me. Obviously, the games are amazing, and getting to sit there and watch them is another big thing. But
buddies that you've been watching games with forever, that you've just kind of been experiencing them with, like, across the continent or across the fucking world, finally like hanging out in the same room, sharing a beer, enjoying Dota the way it was meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely surreal though. I mean, like
I can't wait.
It's gonna be surreal is the perfect word.
Yeah,
where it's like we're just out here completely isolated from everything. Yeah, we see downloads. Yeah, we see responses, and we talk to people, and we play games with people, and we get in a mumble server. But like,
and interview people.
But like this whole face-to-face thing where it's like, wow, like, whoa, what's up? Like, this is weird. Like, we're in flesh form now. Like, it's gonna be weird. It's like, I don't know. I'm kind of nervous, honestly. Like, I don't know. Is that a common feeling? Are you nervous?
Kind of. Not anymore. I used to be. I think when I was either meeting someone for the first time that I was with or friends with, or just people that I knew, or personalities in the scene, I definitely was nervous the first time around. Now it's just kind of.
Were you just surprised by like how welcoming and awesome it was? Is that the story that's gonna get rid of my nervousness? Yeah, that everybody meet
just
so
crushes
nice.
Dreams here,
everyone
Maut.
that I've talked to goes out of their way to be nice to people in the Dota community, which is like a far cry from what I think what a lot of us expect with this community in general, because of how quote unquote toxic this community can be at sometimes. But if you meet a lot of these people in real life, no one's going to say shit to anybody, even if you have some sort of beef going online, which is very rare.
I am with Brad Swagwack, and I'm going to call him fucking pub trash. I am. We're going to meet up to call him fucking pub trash.
More power to you, man. But,
I'm coming for you at Brad Swagwack.
for the most part, people are generally pretty chill. Like anybody that you talk to, pros, personalities, just general people, admins, other like language casters. And it gets even better like when there's an after party and where there's alcohol involved. Not that I'm like, I'm not gonna advocate alcohol.
Let's get shit-faced and tell each other how much we love each other, dude. And be like, no, your content's better. No, your content's better. Let's do that, dude.
Not do that.
I'm actually like getting kind of sad. Well, not really sad, but it's just kind of, it sucks that Trout's not actually going, and he was somebody that I loved hanging out with at this last event that we were doing in Burbank, California, which was WCA. And so like when you have one or two of those people that aren't going, you feel like you're missing something. And I think that's what, it's a lot of people, as soon as I said that I was going anyways, regardless of what happened, a lot of people kind of were like, oh, that's excellent, can't wait to see you, we're going to hang out again, and I think that's definitely the most exciting thing about TI. Obviously the games are going to be great. Hopefully it's better than TI4, because that was just not a great tournament, to be honest. And I mean, the tournament was ran correctly and great, but the games were just shit. But it was good because we were there with our friends, and we could all complain about how the games went together. We could all kind of just chill together, and yeah, it's a great environment. I mean, you get a bunch of video game players in the same area, you're gonna have a good time. I'm sure there's a lot of geeks.
Take over a whole fucking arena and just own the place for a week. Where like everywhere you look is like somebody that's probably into the same shit you're into, which I'm looking around me right now going like, fuck these guys. I'm out of here.
You're sitting there, you're a closet weeaboo, and you're just like, oh, nice, I can talk about anime finally. It's just like,
this guy beats off to the same weird cartoon I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once a show.
Yeah, once an episode, we get that. All right. Yeah.
Ever since Easy joined, we have one masturbation joke an episode.
Yep, he's got to fit it in somehow.
I mean, I wasn't gonna go as far as to say beating off to anime. That's not really my thing. Whatever you're into, go for it. Sure.
Yeah.
But,
we're into those.
So what is your prediction? Who do you think is going to win it? Take it. Who? Let's even go your top four. That's what we've been really asking folks. Top four.
Secret, I think, probably is going to be first. That's an all-star team for a reason. Arteezy's the best player in the world, 100%. Zai's like the second best player in the world.
Yep.
Like everyone else is like tied third best player in the world on that team.
Yep. Yep.
Let's move on past.
I can't wait for the high five, dude. I can't wait.
I think Roki's honestly way better than a lot of those players when he's a carry, but his Rubik is so freaking good. I know they're all so amazing on that team. They're actually
good, dude.
Good.
His visage is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything's good about that team. Then I think it's probably going to be EG, just because
and
there's a lot of raw talent there.
Yeah.
But I think you'd get interchanged 1 and 2 between Secret and EG, and I think you'd probably have a correct prediction. It really comes down to how the teams are feeling that day. Third will more than likely be, I think, I want to say a Chinese team, and this is these are very common predictions. Like, this is not anything new. I think a lot of people are thinking what I'm thinking. Third will probably be a Chinese team of some sort, and that'll probably be, I think, Vici, because I think Hao is pretty good. I'm a pretty big fan of Hao, so probably Vici. Then fourth is probably going to be Cloud9 or Virtus Pro. But
who was it that disagreed with the Cloud9 prediction that we had?
Sir Slacks disagreed with the Cloud9 prediction.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we had Malistrix on from Join Dota. He's the editor-in-chief over there, and he thinks that top 3: Secret, EG, and Cloud9. And it was like, what? Cloud9? But you also said Cloud9, and it's probably consistency, I'm guessing, is what you're saying with Cloud9.
All right, if you watch Cloud9, that team is so individually talented. All they really need to do is just have a good draft and not tilt. Mm-hmm. And I almost guarantee you that short of like playing against Arteezy or like Ferrari 430, Fata will win almost every single mid matchup, assuming he's got a decent hero in his hands. That guy's actually amazing at Dota, and I've noticed it a lot more recently, and I talked about it in a lot of my casts with Cloud9, is just that he seems to win more and more matches like for his team on his own. Then you add the utility that Misery and Nota provide, and you kind of just have to hope that Envy doesn't tilt, and Bone 7 will get a lot done on his own, and you pretty much have a recipe for success. I'd go as far to say as they could easily contest for the 1 or 2 spot if they are in the right mindset, but I think that goes for a lot of teams. But I think Fata and the rest of that squad are just so individually talented that maybe they will be third or even second. It's really hard to we'll have to wait and see.
I'm glad you agree with Team Secret, though. Yeah, I love Team Secret. Sir Slacks is like Team Secret, blah. And I was like, whatever.
So Maut, then hypothetical here, especially with the lockdown coming in on September 1st for the teams. Say hypothetically, Team Secret comes in and they just wipe the fucking floor and take TI, and it's not even a competition. Do you see the other pro teams or even like the best players in the scene scrambling to come up with a team and lock it down before the first to counter Team Secret, like an all-star-esque team similar to how that was formed?
I think we already have pretty much all our all-star teams.
Everybody's there.
Yeah, we already kind of switched things around enough where I don't see us changing really any, at least for a lot of the European teams. That I think we're seeing pretty much the Final Four in a lot of these rosters, at least for this year, even into next year. I think Evil Geniuses have had enough good results that they all stay together, unless Fear does something insane like retire, which I don't think that'll be the case. I think, Cloud9 have already rotated enough players around that, unless we find some new blood in the Dota scene, I don't think any of these teams will really get anybody new. That's the crazy thing about this, and this is something I was thinking about talking about earlier, is that the problem with Dota 2 is that it's not conducive for new players to join the scene. There are very rare instances, and Zai, obviously being part of Han and Arteezy being part of the Dota scene for a long time, are one of those instances. But that's like a very rare case where Zai or you have a Zai or Arteezy come in, they're like 17, 18-year-olds, and they just dominate the scene. Dota is not a game for the younger generation. I've noticed this recently when I'm playing Counter-Strike. When I'm playing Counter-Strike, I will alternate every game, and every other game I will have a kid on my team. And I don't mind that. I'm not one of those grumpy old men that's just like, shut up, you fucking kid. I'm not, it's not a big deal to me. But
you say thank you for your reflexes.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And Dota's a way more cerebral game. That's the problem. It's just that Dota is not conducive to a new player kind of environment. You're not gonna. And Sumail, that's a very, very rare case. That is a very rare case. Sumail being, of course, and obviously he had someone to teach him, which was his brother Yuar, and I think he had another mentor. There was an article about it somewhere else, but it's very, very rare that you have those younger players, and it kind of makes me fearful for how the future is way down the road, because eventually everyone's going to have played with each other at one point or another. And we're going to be like, okay, well, what do we do now? We can't get any new players. There's nobody out there.
Maybe I'll start combines in like AAA teams, and if they standardize the scene, then they can have like a minor leagues where you like up and comers and continue to. I mean, Valve's got to be considering the same thing, right? Like, because they don't want that.
I mean, Valve, they're very, very invested in like, they think they're invested in the pro scene. I think a lot of the time, but until I actually see it, I'm gonna kind of hold my breath as to how the future of them being involved in Dota is concerned.
Maybe
not to
call
out Valve or anything, but I think it's just for now we kind of have to wait and see. But back to the point is just that I don't think I'm wrong about this. Like how often have you guys played a Dota game and had like a kid, someone that sounds like they're 15 or younger in your game? Like how often has that happened?
We're also not super often.
Yeah, I think more frequently than somebody at a 4K level does for sure.
Right.
But yeah, it's still fewer and further between than you would anticipate with an online game.
Yeah.
Well, just looking at the demographic of our community as a whole, it skews, 18 to 25 dominantly.
Well, and a lot of our guildies seem, not that we don't have younger members, but a lot of our guildies even seem to be like 18 to 25 range. They're college students, a lot of them, and
yeah, and then you've got your families too. Then you've got like the husbands that are like probably 30s. 30s, stuff like that. Where you get a lot of that.
Dota's a very old game. I mean, it's a game that's been around forever. Like Warcraft 3, which is really crazy to think about, came out in 2003, and people that were serious about Warcraft 3 were at least in their teens, or maybe 13, 14, 15. Maybe even older than that around that time.
They may have been as old as us talking about it. Who knows?
I think for me, I'm actually a very young caster, and I'm a very young person in Dota. When you think about at least from with all the pros and all the personalities, I'm on the younger side of the scale, and I'm 24, so I'm actually pretty old. Greg is like 22 or 23 actually, and then like Basekip is he's 20 or 21 or something like that. So there are younger people out there, but I'm still considered pretty young for being a personality and being a caster, which is crazy to think about. 24 shouldn't be young, but I don't know. I guess it is.
Yeah,
interesting. It'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah. So one final question for you before we let you go. What, as newcomers to the TI scene, what is one thing we should do while we're either in Seattle or at the TI?
Let's see here. I can't speak as to one big thing to do in Seattle, because when I was at TI the past 2 years, I hang out with friends, and I think that's all I can really tell you. Just have a good time with your friends, and
awesome.
Try to hang out with as many people as you possibly can. And I mean, it's definitely an amazing experience. The atmosphere of Key Arena, the people that you get to meet. Just try to have a good time. I don't know. That's it. That's all I can really say. Just try to have a good time. Try to hang out with your friends and make the best of the trip. You kind of have to choose your own path as to what to do at Seattle. But
yeah.
That's
for a lot of people, I'm sure it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, so treat it as such, man, because you might not get a chance to do it again.
Yeah.
And, who knows what TI6 is going to look like, so you better enjoy the fuck out of TI5.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, well, if you guys want to find Maut, you can follow him on Twitter, @MautDota. That's M-A-U-T, Dota. You can also find him on twitch.tv/MautDota. Or MautDota 2, excuse me. And then if you want to check out what he's doing with High Ground, because we didn't really get into it that much this episode, but he's a co-founder of High Ground with Greg Laird. You can find that at highground.tv. So if you want to find us, we're at defenseofthepatients.com. Tweet us at .p_show. Email us at defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. And find us on iTunes just by searching for Defense of the Patients. So until next time, this is Cyphus for Roland, Easy, and Maut saying good luck and Godspeed.